And well, the Cabinet on Monday approved the establishment of the National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund, meant to serve as the key engine for aligning the Kenya Kwanza administration's financial resources with national development priorities. Our reporter Jesse Rogers takes a deeper look at what the Infrastructure Fund entails and how it will be managed and financed.
President Ruto's cabinet on Monday approved the National Infrastructure Fund as part of a broader strategy to mobilize capital for priority sectors critical to Kenya's economic transformation. Speaking Tuesday, President William Ruto highlighted Kenya's plans to cut by half the number of people living below the poverty line within the next 30 years. This, he said, should be done without overborrowing and overburdening taxpayers, hence the need to bring in more private sector resources.
And that is why we have developed alternative mechanisms of how we are going to do this, using mature assets that we have as a country and leveraging those by putting together private-public partnership where we can bring on board more private sector resources.
National Infrastructure Fund was approved as a limited liability company. This move, according to experts, might rid the fund of the lengthy government bureaucracies. However, it has generated controversy regarding parliamentary oversight, even as Parliament is set to ratify and approve the cabinet decision. Under the new framework, the fund combines public anchor capital with private and institutional investment, with the approach meant to free up value locked in public enterprises. The fund is meant to operate with professional independence, with a fully fledged CEO and board, while the government acts as an anchor investor. On the other hand, the Sovereign Wealth Fund will operate under a yet-to-be-established policy framework. Experts argue that if well-designed and managed, the fund could boost the country's development agenda.
What the president is saying and doing, what the president is saying, if done, is what Kenya needs to do. Yes. The president has realized that Kenya has everything that we need, that is needed to develop. And we have never developed because there are certain fundamentals that are not in place. And those are the fundamentals that perhaps we should be debating.
This company, what would be the basis for this company to raise funds? Can anybody just create a company, then you go to the stock market and raise funds? The only basis for this company to raise funds is that those funds will be secure. That's why they're called sovereign funds. Yeah. And who is the security? It will be Kenya's people and Kenyan taxes.
According to experts, the Infrastructure Fund will offer a way to tap into large pools of domestic savings like pension funds, and if well managed, can attract private investment. Privatization proceeds from the sale of up to 65 state corporations will be strictly invested in public infrastructure projects that generate long-term value. Experts argue that we shouldn't spend the principal amount, but the interest from the endowment funds.
And that is the mistake that I'm hearing in the words that I'm hearing. We are taking money by selling the parastatals into a sovereign wealth fund, and then you're spending it. It has not grown. So I think it's the execution that we have a problem with. The idea of all these funds is great.
Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro has joined the growing list of critics opposing the plan to establish the National Infrastructure Fund, arguing that before introducing the fund, the government ought to account for the 4 trillion shillings debt it has incurred since it took office.
That you have already borrowed 4 trillion shillings, and Kenyans deserve that money to be accounted for.
Jesse Rogers, KTN.
Tonight, we return to a story KTN has been highlighting